Here we go. In progress. Got it. Welcome, fellow Toastmasters and guests. This meeting of online presenters has now begun. Guests, please note that in order to be a member of our club, you must be a current or former active member of Toastmasters International and have completed at least 6 speeches from either the traditional or Pathways program. Or you must have substantive relevant presentation experience that you demonstrate in a 3 to 5 minute speech during one of our club meetings. All requests for membership are subject to board approval. If you have not already done so, please change your panel to ensure that it shows both your name and your role if you have one. You can right-click and select rename to do so. If you're a guest, please put a capital G in front of your name. And I'll rename myself as Watcher right after this. We do have members and oftentimes guests from many countries throughout the world. Thus, as a professional organization, we ask that you please be aware of language or word usage that may be considered offensive or otherwise insensitive due to cultural differences. Please note that we will be recording the meeting. Your video or audio contributions may be used for club marketing purposes. Also, please mute your microphone when you are not speaking. We do encourage you to engage with us through the chat. Today's theme is, it's not making the best of mistakes. Getting the most out of mistakes?
Making the most.
Making the most of mistakes. And I will make that adjustment right now. Let me adjust. Making the most of mistakes. Please welcome our president, DTM, Distinguished Toastmaster, Lou Brown. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Madam Sergeant at Arms, and welcome everyone. It's so wonderful to see all of you today, this afternoon, this evening, wherever you are in the world. Some of our members I see I haven't seen in a while, so nice to see you today. Really enjoy seeing your smiling faces. And our guests, we have several guests with us today. This is wonderful. Normally our meetings are 3 parts, as all of us are Toastmasters. Many of us are in advanced clubs, as we know. However, today is a special 4-parter because we are going to have a special membership segment at the end of the meeting. So definitely stick around for that. Full agenda today, lots going on. Can't wait to hear those speeches. With that said, let me turn it right over to our Toastmaster of the meeting, Toastmaster Graham Carnes. Take it away, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome and one and all to this meeting of Online Presenters Toastmasters. The theme of the day is making the most of mistakes. And the reason for that is because it was on this day in 1173 that construction began on the campanile of the Cathedral of Pisa. Now, a campanile is a freestanding bell tower. So why would I be telling you about the beginning of the construction of the campanile of Pisa? Here's a question. Who here has been to Italy? If you've been to Italy, have you had a chance to get to Florence and to Pisa? There's a few hands that have gone up. Now, there is absolutely no reason that you would have gone to Pisa if it wasn't for the Leaning Tower. Now, what happened was that the Leaning Tower, the campanile, the bell tower, if you like, was built, but unfortunately the foundations were not as strong as they might have been, and there is a 4-degree lean. Doesn't sound like much, 4 degrees, but as you can see behind Jim, it's a fairly significant lean, and yet people from all around the world go and view this just because it was a mistake. That's what we need to do as presenters, ladies and gentlemen, as Toastmasters, as people. We need to own up to our mistakes and make the most of them. When life gives you lemon, make lemonade. If life gives you melon, chances are it means that you're dyslexic. So we're going to make the most of our mistakes today. If you make a mistake, that's what we're here for. This is a learning experience for us all. As mentioned, we have 3 parts of the meeting. Normally we have the prepared speeches, we have the impromptu speaking, and of course we have the evaluation. But all of the meeting cannot happen unless there is support from other people. I can't do it all on my own, which is probably a good thing because you'd get awfully sick of listening to me, and I know I'd get sick of talking. Well, no, I wouldn't. I never get sick of talking, but I will introduce those that are going to be assisting me today. The first of those is our R counter, Antoinette. Antoinette, can you tell us what you will be doing today?
Good evening, Toastmaster of the day, and to everyone, all my fellow Toastmasters. I am the R counter for this evening, and I will be listening to unusually long pauses. I'll be also listening to unusual sounds like so, and others. And I will provide a report when I'm called to do so. Back to you.
Thank you, Antoinette. Thank you for doing that. And thank you, Donna, by the way, for agreeing to step in to be our counter. But Antoinette arrived, so you can now just relax, knowing that you're going to get a table topic because you're obviously going to get one. Our grammarian tonight is April. Briefly, April, can you tell us what you will be doing tonight?
Thanks, Mr. Toastmaster. As grammarian, it is my responsibility to pay close attention to all the speakers, listening carefully to their language usage. I'll take note of any misusage of the English language, as well as outstanding usage. I'll also listen for usage of the word of today, which is adjust. I've also placed it in the chat. And adjust is to alter or move something slightly in order to achieve the desired fit, appearance, or result. I will present my report when called upon by the general evaluator. Over to you, Toastmaster.
Thank you, April. Thank you. I'll look forward to hearing your report later. And there's a warning, ladies and gentlemen, we should adjust what we're going to say so that we include the word of the day, adjust if possible. The watcher is a role that's not used in many clubs, but is in this club for a very good reason. And Roxanne will tell us why.
Because we all want to look pretty. And I'm here to see just how well you're pulling that off. I'll be watching to see how well you're lit. We are an online club. We are virtual presenters. And as such, our visuals, very important. It carries a big impact. So I'll be looking for lighting, proper spacing, headspace, et cetera, and I'll give a report when called upon by the general evaluator.
Thank you, Roxanne.
Thank
Our
you.
next role is the chat monitor. That's something which is exclusive to online clubs, and in fact is something that I believe was first generated in this club. I've seen it picked up by other clubs. To tell us what he will be doing as chat monitor, Rick Durling.
Thank you, and my name is Rick Durling, and I will be watching chat. I will be keeping an eye on it, which is no mean feat since it is on the screen and my eye might actually be irritated from that. But I will nevertheless keep an eye on chat and report at the end of the meeting on anything that seems interesting, amusing, or otherwise noteworthy. I will also be answering questions as much as I can should they be posted in chat. Thank you, Graham.
Thank you, Rick. And one of Rick's other roles is to ensure that if there's something comes up in chat that I need to know about, that he draws it to my attention, because I have it here, but quite frankly, I'm not real good at looking sideways. Our vote counter stepped in at the last moment tonight, and I thank her for doing that. Deborah Carr, how will you be counting votes tonight?
I will be counting votes as soon as everyone sends them to me. So if you will, after the speeches, after all three speeches, send your vote to me. Same with the, what comes next? Table topics. And then after that, with the evaluators, I'll count them up and I'll announce everything at the end.
Fabulous. So if you want to be the best speaker, the best table topics, or the best evaluator, then do the best you can. If you want to vote for somebody else, then you do that by sending your vote to Deborah. All right, so as mentioned, a Toastmasters meeting is traditionally in 3 sections. We've just gone through who's who in the zoo. Now it's time for what many people see as the important part of Toastmasters, that is the prepared presentations. And we have 3, not 1, not 2, but 3 excellent speakers here tonight who have prepared presentations. The first of those is going to be Pamela Benjamin. Now, if you have an old copy of the agenda, you may see that Pamela's down twice. Well, that was an error. She really doesn't want to have 2. But what she does want to have is 1, and the first one. Why is it the first one? Because it is the icebreaker. Now, the icebreaker in a traditional club, in a non-advanced club, is the first speech that many members give. This is not her first time around the rodeo, but I'm still looking forward to hearing Pamela Benjamin's icebreaker, because Pamela will be presenting from the presentation mastery path. And in this, she will be doing the icebreaker and telling us something a little about herself, perhaps something that we do not know, but certainly something interesting about herself, and introducing an aspect of her life to the club. So this speech will be 4 to 6 minutes, please, Madam Timekeeper, if I can have an indication at 4, 5, and 6. By the way, did I introduce the Timekeeper? I'm not sure that I did. Who is our Timekeeper tonight? I know I've written it down. The Timekeeper is, who's our Timekeeper? Lou Brown, of course it is. Yes, Lou, can you give us an
waving my
indication
hands like crazy?
Yes,
Thought you'd see.
Yeah, can you indicate how you will be indicating lights and timing tonight?
Certainly, sir. I was about ready to sing again. Thought maybe that would help. Yes, as timer, it is my duty to keep everyone on track with timing, and I mean everyone. Our speakers, our table topics presenters, our evaluators, our report makers. We are so professional in this club, we get it down to the minute, if not the second. And I'll provide a report at the end of the meeting. And all timing requirements, by looking at the agenda, are the standard 5 to 7 minutes as far as the speeches go, and everything else is per the usual. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Lou. One deliberate mistake that Lou just made there. He wasn't listening when I said that this first speech is in fact 4 to 6 minutes, it being an icebreaker. Damn, he says, but that's all right. He gets away with it anyway. All right, so as I say, our first speech is an icebreaker, and it is by Pamela Benjamin. Pamela will be presenting from the Presentation Mastery Level 1, Mastering Fundamentals, the icebreaker, and for 4 to 6 minutes, My Life in Finance, Pamela Benjamin.
Good evening, online presenters. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are on the globe. My life in finance. I was born in Chicago. I was raised in the suburbs. And after I graduated from high school, I went downstate Illinois to a college of about 2,000. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I kept trying different things. And finally, I settled on finance. Finance in this tiny little town in Illinois. And this is what it looks like down there. It is considered one of the it's close to the corn capital of the world. It is the corn belt. It is known for agriculture. They grow soybeans, they grow corn, a lot of it. Now, that didn't mean much to me as a Chicago girl because we didn't grow a lot of different things. But I sat in classes with a lot of people that were in agriculture. And so we were studying finance, and my minor was economics, and we were studying commodities. And I really got the bug for markets and all those different things. We didn't know that much about it. We just were talking theory. When I was in high school, and had gone to college, my summers, my dad had gotten me a job at General Mills. General Mills makes cereal. And to make cereal, you have to buy raw products. I started an internship with General Mills when I was in college, and I was working on the Chicago Board of Trade for a bit. And what they would do is they would buy futures on the commodities. They would buy futures on the corn, they would buy futures on the wheat, they would need to get different types of wheat to make the Wheaties, they did different types of wheat to make the cereals and the cakes, etc. So little did I know how much my life would become about commodities and agricultural commodities as a girl growing up in Chicago. After my internship with General Mills, they were not really into buying and selling commodities. They were into taking delivery of it. And so I had a choice whether to be an accountant with them and be more of a bean counter and work with their their main location in Minneapolis, or if I wanted to stay in the Chicago markets there. I chose to stay, and I moved on to the options exchange, which had just started. The Board of Trade had started the options exchange. And if you don't know much about finance, it's basically a financial tool for stocks. So the underlying instruments and commodities are all the things we eat. The stocks are the things, are financial instruments on the places we work at and the things we buy, the big, huge companies. I was there for a little bit and I really, really enjoyed it. And when I had left college and Jimmy Carter had been president and the stock market hadn't been doing well, and Ronald Reagan came in, and all of a sudden things really started to change. And I saw the beginning of the S&P 500 in some of the exchanges there, the S&P 100, and those were really starting to take shape at that point, and they really revolutionized finance. I was in the middle of that. Well, I didn't stay on the options exchange for more than 5 years, and I eventually went to the work with a trader who was primarily on the mercantile. And the mercantile, if you know about exchanges and futures, those are mostly animal products. And they evolved into animal products and also currencies. And I was working there for a trader, and he wanted me to help with some of the administration, and we did an intraday P&L on some of the futures. Now that doesn't mean that much today, but back in the early 80s, we didn't have real-time P&Ls during the day. And so I hired a programmer and we worked on that. We created a real-time P&L. That programmer happened to be my husband. We met there and we went on to bigger and better things. But that's my life in finance. It really, really changed my life. My husband got my brother a job down there at the Mercantile Exchange. I spent probably 5 years in exchange pits like that on the options exchange. And then I came over to this. And so I really, really miss those days. And I don't talk about it too much because not too many people understand it. But most of this is now online. You really don't see anything like this. And if you do see a little bit of it, it's mostly at desks and computers. So there was a day that these sorts of things happened, and I got to be a part of it for a short period of time. And that's Icebreaker number 6 for me. And I am talking about my financial life down there on the exchange for the first time. Thank you for listening. And I really wish those days were still here, but technology and life keeps moving on, and we all have to learn, grow, and change.
Thank you, Pamela. Thank you for that. Your life in finance, something we did not know about you. And I love the meeting with your husband. Not so much an acquisition, but definitely a merger there. So I also thought it was amusing that given that we were talking about food futures and things, you said you didn't want to be a bean counter. Well, I would have thought that was, anyway, no. All right, let's move on to our second presentation tonight. Also about food, but of a different sort. Brussels sprouts. This is the second speech by BDC, Brian David Crawford, in the evaluation and feedback section of leadership and development. Basically, what happens here, we all know, but I'm going to go through it anyway because that's the role of the Toastmaster. We give a speech, we get evaluated, then we have to give either that speech or a similar speech based on the suggestions made in the evaluation. So, with a speech entitled Brussels Sprouts, and I do have an introduction for this, so I just need to go back one page on my email. He says, confidently predicting that things will work the way that they're supposed to. Yes, Brian has sent me the introduction and it has just disappeared off my screen. No one likes Brussels sprouts. Nobody likes mistakes either, but they make them. Brussels sprouts, nature makes. Brussels sprouts, they're the worst. So what lesson has BDC learned from not eating Brussels sprouts? For a time of 5 to 7 minutes, Brussels sprouts, Brian David Crawford.
Thank you very much. My mom loves making Brussels sprouts, cooks them all the time. And growing up as a kid, I wanted nothing to do with them. They're disgusting, they're vile, they're literally the worst vegetable you possibly can have. So every night when my mom would make those Brussels sprouts and they'd sit on my plate, growing more poisonous by the second, and I wouldn't eat them, she would say to me, you know, there are starving kids in Ethiopia who would love those Brussels sprouts. Now, I didn't care about the starving kids in Ethiopia. I cared about this starving kid sitting right at the dining table who just wanted his dessert. But that was the thing. I didn't want to deal with all those type of things. I didn't want to go with that. All I could focus was the fact that I had to eat these Brussels sprouts. That was the problem at hand. So I would do things, you know, crazy things like taking it and slipping it to my dog. I would do things like putting it in my mouth and chugging some milk so it would just slide down my gullet without even being tasted. All I could do was focus on the problem at hand. Ladies and gentlemen, I did not come here today to talk to you about Brussels sprouts. I came here to talk to you about something known as the hero's journey and how this can affect each and every one of us. The hero's journey is this storytelling methodology that exists in literally every culture around the world. There's this great book that goes into detail about all the myths and mythologies from every culture and how they all follow the same concept. We can see it in modern stories like Star Wars, Lion King, Ace Ventura, Pet Detective. They all follow the exact same formulaic approach. You start with a person in their normal world. They receive a call to action. They step outside their normal world and go on a journey and become a hero in the process. So what does that have to do with Brussels sprouts? Well, I didn't know it at the time, but my refusal to eat Brussels sprouts was part of my hero's journey to learn to eat a healthy, well-balanced diet. For many years, I rejected that call to action, and I just lived life the way I wanted to do it. I ate whatever food I wanted, whether it was deep fried or smothered in barbecue sauce, and sometimes deep fried and smothered in barbecue sauce at the same time. I lived my life to the fullest. I ate whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted, however I wanted to do it. And then eventually that caught up with me. On my 30th birthday, when I was loading clothes into the washing machine, I felt a sharp pain in my chest. I was rushed to the hospital. It's kind of scary sitting in the hospital, having a heart attack, looking at your life and realizing you haven't lived the life that you wanted to live. I wasn't married. I had no kids. I'd accomplished practically nothing in my life other than having a mortgage on a house. It's even more humbling when you realize you didn't have a heart attack. It was just acid reflux, and you spent a whole lot of money at the ER for really nothing. That was the wake-up call for me that I needed to go on the health journey. That was me accepting my call to action, where I stepped outside of my normal world to begin my hero's journey to having a healthy, well-balanced diet. Along the way, the hero is going to face trials and tribulations. They're going to face things that they have to overcome. But while they're doing this, they're going to meet two kinds of people. They're going to meet an ally and an adversary. An ally is someone who's going to help them overcome these trials and tribulations. In my life, I've met allies who have taught me things about like good nutritional eating habits and exercise routines. And one friend who even convinced me to stop wearing a belt and instead wear snazzy suspenders because it allows the pants to just taper off of the belly. Trust me, if you're a bigger person, just wear some suspenders. You'll look better. You're just going to have to believe me on this. Adversaries aren't going to do this. They're not going to help you. In fact, they're just going to look you square in the eye and say, you know, there's starving kids in Ethiopia who would love to eat your Brussels sprouts. If we come across someone who's on this hero journey, we really have two options. We can help them or we cannot. And when we see someone's problem and we see that it's a valid problem, we want to help. When y'all all thought I had a heart attack, you felt something, right? Something deep inside of you that says, I want to help. Because that's just basic human decency. But when you found out it was just acid reflux, did you want to do anything? Take some Tums, Brian, get over yourself. This isn't a problem. Starving kids in Ethiopia would love to have your acid reflux. And that's the really crazy thing about a hero's journey, is while you may be an ally or an adversary in their journey, your decision to help someone on their journey, when you do not feel like they are needing your help, that their journey is valid, that's your hero's journey too. That's where you start as a normal person and you get to step outside your comfort zone and help someone unselfishly with a problem that you think is meaningless and beneath you. You get to go on a hero's journey to become something greater than yourself. We all can become heroes. It's going to start with everyone, you and I, becoming allies.
Thank you, BDC. Great call to action there, and I thank you for that. I got to tell you, I love the concept of the hero's journey. I've done a workshop on it in a storytelling club that I belong to, but you distilled that so perfectly well tonight. Thank you. I will say, though, as somebody who grew up in a country where there are no Tums, the discovery of how good they are at dealing with acid reflux when I was in the United States is something that took me on a journey that I am never going to forget. Our third speaker tonight is Li-Seng Zhu. Now, Li-Seng is going to be presenting a speech on building skills by building a social media presence. This is one of the electives which comes up in Presentation Mastery. It's a level 4 elective, and it's about building a social media presence. So to present little by little from WeChat to Facebook for a period of 5 to 7 minutes, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Li-Seng Zhu.
Little by little, dripping water hollows out stone. Little by little, one travels far. And little by little, a little become a lot. Friends, I truly believe the power of little by little. That is, if we want to achieve anything, it has to be achieved little by little. That, of course, applies to building a social medium presence. Honestly speaking, I'm not a fan of social media. So far, the only one I have regular use is WeChat. Is there anyone has used WeChat? Please raise your hand. Wow, there are two, Angie and Antoinette. Oh, wow, Lucas, thank you. Well, but WeChat is not as popular among people who do not speak Chinese. But WeChat, in my opinion, is one of the most powerful social media. Based on its function, you can almost use it to do everything. You connect, you share, you communicate with people in all possible formats: texting, video, audio, attached, articles, etc., and much more. You pay your bills, you transfer money, you do business, you shopping, etc. I started to use WeChat since at 2015. At the beginning, I resisted. I didn't feel the need. I need to use a social media. But my friends pushed and pushed and pushed me in China. And they basically bullied me into creating a WeChat account. But little by little, I felt love in WeChat. Nowadays, WeChat is a primary communication tool of me with my family and friends in China and around the world. Whenever I have some time, I call them. without spending a penny. And also through WeChat, I found my long lost friends, and they found me, and we reconnected with each other. I also made hundreds of new friends through WeChat. I truly enjoyed WeChat. At times, I felt extensively connected and abundantly informed. But at a certain point, I felt something is missing, something in my life, which is fundamental and important, just cannot be achieved by using WeChat. That is a connection to my friends, my colleagues, my students who do not speak Chinese. And I don't know what's going on in their life, and I can't reach them through WeChat. And I feel the need, and I want to connect with them, especially during these lockdown years of COVID-19, when I spend most of the time in front of the computer and home. We all know the saying that necessity is the mother of invention. So the need of me wanting to connect with people around me, drive myself to create my Facebook account. You know what? It takes a great deal of effort to adjust from one social media platform to another. However, everybody else says it's just quite easy. But for me, it's take a great deal of efforts. But hey, I can learn little by little. I learned how to navigate Facebook page and made some progresses. I used Facebook to establish connections. I so far made 40, 50 some friends. I know it's not a lot, but it's a start. And I used Facebook to promote my work, such as posting my research presentation videos on the Facebook page. I'm glad to see that some of my students actually watched it and responded. I also post some of the flowers, my plants on WeChat, like water lotus and birdhouse gourd, and share my passion of loving plants with friends. It's fun to see there's many friends that love my plants and they ask questions as a comment on my plants. I know it's so slow for my progress for Facebook, but my journey with Facebook has already started. And I believe little by little, I'll be getting better and better at Facebook and to be able to use it to do much more, because I believe the power of little by little. Thank you all, and back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Li-Sing. Thank you for that. And even if it is a journey of 1,000 miles beginning with just a single step, that single step has been made. So congratulations on beginning that. I mentioned that a Toastmasters meeting traditionally is in 3 parts. The first is the formal presentations, which we have just heard. The second is the impromptu speaking. But before we get to that, just going to check the speaker times. Pamela spoke for 5 minutes 51, BDC for 6:09, Li-Sing for 6:37, which means that all 3 speeches are within the allocated time and can all be voted on for the best speaker. Please send your votes to Deborah Carr, who is listed as vote counter Deborah Carr. If you just do a search for V in the participant list, there she'll be. All right, so now time for the impromptu speaking session. This is where we get a chance to be extemporaneous. And I'm going to hand control to our Table Topics Master in a moment. But before I do, Andrew, just a reminder that we do have a new member vote coming up at 8:37. So if you can please be aware of that and wrap up your Table Topics session by then. Now, let me pass control to our Table Topics Master for the evening, the one, the only, he's only human, don't swoon. Here he is, Andy Byrne.
Unmute, Andy.
You're muted, Andy.
Okay. Do you see it on your screen or not?
Yes, we do.
Well, you do. Good. All right.
Well, we did.
Not
It's
anymore.
not there anymore.
Oh, no.
Not there anymore. Okay. Let me just.
Murphy's Law.
Murphy's Law. All right. Share. Play in window. Are you seeing this?
Not yet.
Okay.
Do you want us to move on to the vote while you have a fiddle with your... There it is. It's back.
It's back. Wonderful. It's known as the NASA backup plan. All right. So my questions will be going through finding who the people are eligible. I have shown you 4 choices. I'm going to ask you to select one of those 4 items and to identify what changes occurred to you and to society by these particular movies. The first person I'm going to select to answer that question is Lucas. Lucas, select a table topic choice. Which one of these movies impacted you and society the most?
Thank you very much, Mr. Table Topics Master. Certainly, I would say number 2, 3, and 4 had a definite impact on society. For me personally, some more than others. And I know you mentioned that I have to focus on one. So the only one that I can best demonstrate its impact on society would be Star Wars. Number 1, there's longevity. It came out in the 70s. I remember seeing it in the 90s when they were remastered. I remember going to the movie theater and seeing The Phantom Menace, thinking it was the coolest thing. I was somewhat young at that time. And then we saw an additional trilogy being released, and there's just a huge fan base when it comes to Star Wars. People know many, many of the characters. There's so many different spin-offs, concepts, ideas that relate to Star Wars. Books, theme parks, and of course Harry Potter has its own theme park, but so does Star Wars now. So I think that in regard to society, or at least from my perspective, American society, Star Wars has had the largest impact on American society and, to some respects, international appeal, as probably more so than some of the other options here. Essentially, that would be what I think has had the greatest impact on our society and what has left the greatest mark, at least for me, from an entertainment standpoint. Back to you.
Thank you very much. Second contestant, Jeanette. Which one of these 4 movies? Now, we already have 4 selected, so you have choices 1, 2, or 3. Which one of these movies has had the most impact on you and society? Go ahead.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. For me, I would say it's number 2, but I'll go for number 3 because I was able to see, the person who made that kind of the book, who made the book for Harry Potter. She had a lot of difficulties in her life, and she was able to overcome a lot as a single mother. She was a single mother, and she wrote the book, and she wasn't quite sure that if it was going to be very successful. But at the end, she reigned victory, because a lot of people were able to see, especially teenagers, and they were able to see Harry Potter. And I, for myself, I went to Disney, and I saw the whole sceneries that they had for Harry Potter, and it's magical. It's a great story. It's very vivid with the imagination, and I'm very happy for the writer who wrote the book. And I'm not able to see the timer, but I think this book had a great impact in society, because it depicted magic, how magic comes into our lives so vivid through the imagination of the writer. So back to you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you very much. Yeah. And in consistency with the word of the day, or the theme of the day, making the most of mistakes, we will now adjust, because the Toastmaster Day didn't call for a timer's report on how long a table topic is supposed to be. Timer, do you want to talk about that?
Sure, Mr. Topics Master. Table topics, 1 to 2 minutes, 30-second deviation at the end, not at the beginning. Have to speak for at least 1 minute. Back to you.
Thank you very much. The next contestant is Bridget. You have choice 1 or 2. Which of those movies had the most impact on society and you personally?
It's actually Birgit. And Birgit. Personally, it's okay. Personally, it would be 3, 4, 2, 1 for me. However, since I only have the choice between 1 and 2, I'm going to say 2. And I'm personally more of a fan of Next Generation, not the original, much, other than The Trouble with Tribbles. But I think the whole idea behind Star Trek also had a lot of influence, because it was more about different beings, not even just different cultures or different races working together, but really different life forms in some cases. And there was a lot of controversy at the time when Kirk actually kissed an African American woman. He also managed to kiss a lot of other alien life forms. And the whole idea that there could be collaboration across different cultural lines, across different, any kind of lines, and have people come together as a group. And of course, there's always that space fantasy of how far can we go and how far can we evolve? And I think we've already come a long way with things that we never thought were possible when Star Trek first came out. But we've come a long way in our own technology. I mean, here in California, I see self-driving cars almost every day, but I'm still waiting for that transporter beam to come in place so we don't have to make it through airports. But at the same time, I think it had a lot of cultural impact and a lot of ways to think about it. Sometimes it's easier to think about your own situation by literally putting it onto another planet and really drawing parallels associated with it. So it doesn't come close to home, but it can if you really think about it. Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you very much. And the last remaining movie, I call on Marty. You were around when Jaws was first out. What impact did it have on you and the culture surrounding you?
Well, Mr. Table Topics Master, to be quite honest, Jaws had absolutely no effect on me. You see, I never really bothered to watch it. Jaws, to my mind, was a story that did not mean anything to me. Yes, I know there are times when people become uh, affected by sharks, but I don't swim in the ocean, and I've yet to find a shark in a swimming pool. I don't even really like swimming in swimming pools. So to me, Jaws was it's there. A lot of people making a big fuss over it, but I really couldn't care less because it's not my thing. And that being the case, I simply did not want to go any further with it. I just ignored it. And I watched Star Trek, which I did like instead. That being the case, I would say that Jaws might scare a lot of people, but it sure had absolutely no effect on me, either good or bad. Back to you, Topics Master.
You're muted, Andy.
8:37 I have until, right?
If you need it, yes.
Okay. The next contestant is one of our incoming prospective members, Dr. Karen Hall, who notified me that she would love to participate in Table Topics. The one thing that PBS did a show on related to Star Trek, and they identified more than 200 technologies that were shown on Star Trek that then later became put into reality. One example was the elevator doors, where they opened and closed. Prior to the time period of 66 to 69, there were no elevator doors that opened and closed that way. There were only hinge swing doors. So that was one of more than 200 technologies that were introduced and were later adopted by society. Dr. Hall, can you talk about some of the other of the 200 technologies that Star Trek brought to us?
Thank you for the table topics. 200. Well, when I think of Star Trek, the thing that I think about most is this concept of what if, or to imagine. And it actually allows us to suspend our disbelief. And what's very curious about a movie like Star Trek is that it's come full circle, because what have we've had Jeff Bezos going to space at the moment, and the whole idea of the guy Virgin founder going as well. So the whole idea of making this concept that was so unbelievable when Star Trek came out, to now it's going to be commercially available. Right. If you win a prize, you can actually go to space. So just the whole idea of traveling to space would be, and making that a commercial option would be one super duper, technology. But another one I would say, when we think about that period, is computers and the use of computers, or texting, or just all the technology that we have at the moment that we don't even think about. That is just the norm. All the automations that we do. So I would say all of those, there are just hundreds of them. That's now available to us. So someone sent it, and we've actually made it possible. So quite exciting.
Thank you very much. And as a contest, you can private text me or private message me in the chat box of how many of the 200 inventions you can think of that were created on Star Trek. And just send it to me at the end of the meeting or in our after hours, and we can talk about that. Next, I return it to you, Mr. Toastmaster of the Day.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you for that. I enjoyed those table topics. Your mic is still on, by the way, so that's, I think, where we're getting the echo from. I have to say, it's interesting, some of the things that you raised. Star Trek, and this was referred to in at least one of the table topics, is there's a concept called IDIC, infinite diversity in infinite combinations, which was promoted by Star Trek. And I think that that's actually a valid way of looking at the world these days. Star Wars, as mentioned, has longevity. Harry Potter, the big impact of Harry Potter was that it got kids to read for the first time in a generation or more. And Jaws, well, yeah, I'm not like Marty. I do swim in the ocean, and I went swimming in the ocean the day after I saw Jaws. Not my proudest moment, I might tell you. All right. Normally, we would only have 3 parts of a Toastmasters meeting: the formal presentations, the impromptu speeches, which you've just heard, and then the evaluations. But before we get to the evaluations, we have a 4th part tonight. For this club, I'm really happy to see this happen. This is where we get to vote on whether we accept a new member. And I'm going to ask our Vice President Membership, Marianne Grady, to please handle the vote for our prospective member. Marianne, all yours.
All right, good evening again, everybody. And as VP of Membership, one of my responsibilities is to introduce you to people who are prospective members. They want to be part of our club. And there are 2 ways to go about that. We could do a speech, or if you have extensive Toastmaster experience, you can put that out there and everyone will vote. So at this point in time, before I move on, I'd like to have you focus on Dr. Kieran Hall and say hello to her and give her a warm round of applause, everybody. Hi. And let me tell you a little bit about her. So she visited us 3 times, and when she did a table topics, she volunteered to evaluate a speech, and she gave feedback on each visit. But her Toastmaster experience is quite impressive, and I want to read it off to you. She joined Toastmasters in 2007 in London. She has achieved her DTM. She was the VPE a few times in Amsterdam. She was the District 48 Division E Director in 1920 Toastmaster year in Florida. She was a club president in 2019, and her club achieved President's Distinguished in Naples Advanced Toastmasters. She was the winner of the Division E Evaluation Contest in spring of 2021, and the 3rd place finalist for the District 48 Evaluation Contest in the summer of 2021. TEDx workshop leader, optimized brain function, and that was in Holland. And she was also a health journalist for Sky TV. She organized community outreach events in Naples, Florida, and she was part of the International Toastmasters Contest organizing team in Holland. So now at this time, after hearing her qualification, I will ask you all to vote and whether or not you want to accept Dr. Hall into the club. And the results of this vote will be announced next meeting on the 16th.
All right, closing breakout rooms.
I'll throw back to you, Graham.
All right. I'll just wait for our guests to return.
Mm-hmm.
Don't sing, Graham. Don't
all
sing.
All right, one more person to come, and they're all here.
And as if by magic, they have all resumed. All right, thank you, members, for your vote. And thank you, guests, for your forbearance. Thank you, Marianne, for running that vote. Time now to move to the general evaluation session of the meeting. This is where we get evaluations of not only the formal presentations, but also of the table topics, of the meeting in general, and of the stuff-ups that I have made as Toastmaster. So to present our general evaluation for this evening, will you please make welcome Carolina Ramirez.
Thank you, Raham. Even though we are an advanced club, all of us need feedback. This is a gift. And the first evaluator of this evening is Andrew. He's going to evaluate Pamela's speech.
Thank you very much, Madam General Evaluator. Fellow members, guests, and most importantly, Pamela, what an excellent icebreaker number 6. Clearly, you are experienced speaker. Clearly, you are enjoying telling your life journey. And clearly, there are few things you taught us today. Your life in finance started with excellent introduction back to your childhood. Then you took us on a journey with your first working experience at the mill. Where's the finances there? I was just really interested to know. Then slowly you taught us few lessons about trading on futures and commodities. I really like that. Not many speakers could introduce valuable learning experience into their first speech. Then you move on to meeting your husbands. And then you told us excellently right at the end of your speech, quite powerful conclusion that I liked. We could all embrace the change. We need to live and we need to grow if you want to get on with life. Brilliant, powerful icebreaker number 6. At the same time, as an experienced speaker yourself, you could probably make it better in a few ways. 1, slow down. I think your speech, I understand, is just 6 minutes and so much to tell and the emotions going wild. At the same time, if you could perhaps slow down in certain moments. For example, with that trader you told us about, when you met your husband, I think you should have milked that moment, make it memorable. The other moments when you taught us a lesson about futures and commodities, again, just take a pause so we could all memorize it a little bit more. The other points I would like to mention as well that could make your maybe next icebreaker number 7 even more powerful and engaging. Tell us your stories. I love your stories. I've seen you before telling your stories. You have that engaging, really interesting style. Perhaps you could use it. Again, something happened on that meal that brought you into finance. Or perhaps when everyone is trading online now, tell us a story. Overall, I really enjoy your story, life and finance. I really enjoy those incredible moments of learning that you brought us. Take into account slowing down, perhaps, enjoying it more, telling few powerful personal stories. And your icebreaker number 7, 8, or 9, who knows, will bring us even more joy, more learning experience, and most importantly, more of you. Back to you, Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you very much, Andrew, for your evaluation. Our next evaluator is Tricia. She's going to evaluate VDC's speech. Welcome, Tricia.
Good evening, Toastmasters, especially Brian David Crawford. I have to say, he really had me focused on what he was saying. I like the topic, Brussels sprouts. I was wondering how he was going to present it, and he did it well. I have to say, Brian, you are a master storyteller. I could learn a lot from you, and I learned a lot from your speech. You started talking about Brussels sprouts and your experience growing up. You drew me in because I used to hate eating liver. And I came from a generation where you had to sit at the table until you were done, and I can relate to a lot of things you talked about, how you dealt with it. Then you transitioned, great transitions throughout your entire speech. So kudos on that, the timing, introduction, your storytelling, your examples, the hero's journey. You gave us 2 examples or more, actually, Star Wars and Lion King, something that most people can relate to. Good examples, how someone has a call to action and acts on it. It becomes their journey and they become a hero. You were able to tie that in with Brussels sprouts and how you were reminded, you better eat those Brussels sprouts because someone somewhere is starving, like in Ethiopia. and can use Brussels sprouts. I can relate to that too. So making allies and going through the journey, learning from adversity, you really focused on the allies. You brought in your own personal medical experience and how you overcame it. That was very touching. So not only one story, but 2, 3 with examples. Good job. And you ended with the main point of making allies. It's important to make allies. We all have a call to action to help others and have allies. The only possible suggestion I can make is to maybe use more visuals, like your background. You're really good at your backgrounds usually. You were centered, you had good eye contact, you were focused, good clarity. I would say maybe more vocal variety. Something, maybe a visual presentation, prop or something, Brussels sprouts. That's all I can say. The background, the visuals, the gestures, and maybe a little more voice variety. Otherwise, absolutely excellent. I enjoyed your speech very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tricia. Jim Barber is going to evaluate Lisen's speech. Welcome, Jim.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. My fellow Toastmasters are most welcome guests, and especially, of course, Toastmaster Lising Zhu. Lising, in your presentation, you gave us a fascinating introduction to social media. Your content was interesting, it was well organized, it showed a massive amount of preparation. Thank you for that. You took this seriously. So let me talk about how you conveyed the information. 2 aspects. First one is verbal. You are conversational in your presentation. You have a conversational style, a comfortable style, and that is great. We relate to you so much better when you are comfortable yourself, when you are enjoying speaking to us. And if you're enjoying it, if you're comfortable, we're going to be comfortable. And you do that great. Your pacing is fantastic. It's how fast you speak, and you speed up on occasion where it's appropriate, you slow down where it's appropriate, and your overall pacing is, again, I think, perfect. You have wonderful use of the pause. You use a dramatic pause, you use pause for emphasis, different ways that you will pause throughout your presentation. That ties into pacing, but your use of the pause is great. You have a very strong vocabulary. I have one suggestion for you verbally. You ended with thank you all. No, you don't thank us, we thank you. We thank you with our virtual applause tonight. You gave a great presentation. You're in no position to thank us for listening. We're thanking you. So don't close with that. It's not necessary. While we're on it, on the verbal things, I want to talk for a moment about your accent, because this is something that's come up with some other speakers as well. You have an accent. That is great. An accent is a problem if it is a distraction, if it causes us not to be able to understand what you're saying. But that's not a problem with you. As I just said, everything that you do in your verbal presentation is fantastic. So keep your accent. It makes you unique. It's wonderful. Cherish it. It is you. Wonderful. The video side of your presentation. Your video was off. We couldn't see you. Now, I don't know why that occurred. It could have been unavoidable because of technology problems. It could have been intentional, or it could have been an accident. If it was unavoidable or if it was intentional, you need to let us know that that's going to happen, consequently, so that we could kind of prepare for it. As it was, we were caught off guard. We didn't know exactly what was going on. And at least I didn't know. So if it was announced ahead of time, I didn't pick up on that. If it was an accident, and of course that can occur as well, it's important, and this is not just for you, but for everybody. I know you don't like to look at yourself on camera, but it's important to periodically do that to see what you're showing so that you can see that people are actually seeing you. But this is, again, a minor thing. It was a great presentation, thoroughly enjoyed it. Looking forward to the next one. Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you very much, Jim, for that evaluation. Lou Brown, can you give us your report about the timing of the evaluators, please?
Certainly, Madam General Evaluator. All times are in the chat. Everyone qualified. Jim, right at the clutch. Very good, sir.
Great.
Vote for your favorite
Please
evaluator.
send your vote to the vote counter of tonight. Now it's time for the one-time report of our functionaries. Please, April, can you give us your report as grammarian?
Thank you, General Evaluator. It was a pleasure listening to everyone's speeches today. Toastmaster Pamela, you were very descriptive when describing the small town. It was almost like reading a book. It was very easy for me to visualize what you were speaking. And when you said revolutionize finance, that was a great grammar usage. Toastmaster BDC, you were very descriptive when you mentioned your poisonous Brussels sprouts. And also it was a great example of your comparison of the hero's journey to not eating Brussels sprouts. That was very interesting. And Toastmaster Lacine, necessity is the mother of invention. That is a well-known proverb. I haven't heard it in a while. I thought that was a great usage of that in your speech. I only heard the word of the day, I believe a few times, and that was from Toastmaster today, Graham, and I apologize if I didn't hear. Oh, I'm sorry, Sir Toastmaster Roxanne, she used it as well. So thank you too for using it. And if anyone else used it, I apologize, I didn't catch it. Back to you, General Evaluator.
Thank you very much, April. Our accounter today is Antoinette. Welcome, Antoinette, with your report.
Okay, I'm happy to report to be the accountant, and I'm also happy to report. I only took notes of people who did the filler words in excess of 3 times. There were about 5 persons, I will name them. Graham, 7 hours, 1 hour. Kristen, 8 hours, 2 and 3 hours. Jeanette, 7 hours. And April, 4 hours. I hope you all understood my accent. Back to you, Jenna.
Thank you very much, Antoinette. My accent is very strong as well. Our watcher is today Roxanne. Welcome, Roxanne, with your report.
Yes, thank you, Madam General Evaluator. I am going to use up the entire minute. I got a lot to say. First off, we all look good. I'll say that. There are some things that we could use some adjustments about, but we have been using our frames nicely. If you consider the rule of thirds, where you want your head in either the upper third or the middle, or in this, we have a lot of people who actually sit in a third rather than the middle. And if you check out these people, you'll see it still makes great visual impact. Donna Knight, Miriam Grady, April Elizee, Pamela Benjamin, and Jeanette Francois. With Jeanette, coupled with that side lighting that actually fills her face while keeping the rest of her background in the dark, gives a nice sort of cinematic effect on her that I rather enjoyed. The blurred backgrounds are also great for that, removing distractions if there are any. Lighting has been good across the board, but camera awareness is the thing I'm going to talk about, man. Come on now. I can tell where your screen is when you're doing this, and this is how you're giving your speech. BDC, OMG, his screen is over here. So when he's looking at us, we're looking at his ear. When he speaks to us, bam. Oh yeah. So I know that he's talking to me. And Andre, also great camera awareness, but many of us do need to take a look at that. The one thing we all did do was pay attention. That's my report.
Thank you very much, Roxanne. The eye contact with the camera is very important. Rick, how about the chat today?
Good evening. I have very little to report in chat, except that it will be interesting to look up the 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea and fax machine comment. And I will add a comment for Star Trek that, in fact, the communicator became the flip phone, which is now all of our smartphones. back to you, General Evaluator.
Thank you very much, Rick. Although the agenda was not complete prior to the meeting, it always amazes me how enthusiastic the members of this club are in taking a last-minute role and making the necessary adjustments for a successful meeting. Remember to keep your microphones off in order to avoid the echo. We had a lot of echo today. And to challenge the speakers, present your speeches standing up to challenge ourselves in order to use more body language. And I think that we should use a digital voting tool for the next meetings ahead. And I would like to ask the report to the vote counter.
All right. Da-da-da-da.
Deborah.
I don't have a drum. Anyway, so we have for table topics, we have Dr. Hall. For evaluation, we have Jim Barber. And for best speech, Brussels Sprout Man, BBC. That's it. And back to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Deborah. Graham, back to you. That was my report and my participation.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to address the elephant in the room. Lee Seng may or may not have known that her camera was not on. We've heard that, you know, we are all required to check our own video, but as Master of Ceremonies, I didn't want to interrupt. I thought it would be rude, but on later reflection, I believe I should have drawn it to Lee Seng's attention just so she knows. So, a learning experience for us all. Being polite's nice, but Lee Seng's presentation may have been, I mean, I thought it was a great speech, and I work in radio, so the theater of the mind is what I listen to, and I loved her presentation, but I feel that I may have let her down by not letting her know that we couldn't actually see her. So that's a learning lesson for us all. Politeness is fine, but not if it comes at the risk of damaging somebody's presentation. On that note, I thank you, everybody. I thank you for your use of the word of the night, even if you haven't used it all that much. I'm sure you will adjust your vocabulary so that you do use it at least once in the next week or so. And I remind you that mistakes are rarely fatal. And the reason that we are members of Toastmasters is because here we can make mistakes and learn from them, rather than doing it in the workplace where we learn by being given a pink slip. On that note, I will now hand control to our presiding officer, in fact, to our president, to wrap up the meeting. Lou, it is all yours.
Thank you very much, Graham. Wonderful meeting. Thank you all for being here. Awesome job, Graham, keeping us on track. Speeches were amazing. And Graham, I will say, I was also a little hesitant. I'm like, should I say something? But it could be part of the speech. I wasn't sure. So yeah, that's a tough call. Evaluations, excellent. All of our topic speakers, et cetera. I mean, just a wonderful meeting. Everyone is just so great, professionally done, and I enjoy them. I have no announcements myself. I do ask if Andy or Mary Ann have anything to share with the group before we officially wrap up. Okay, that sounds like a no. Yes,
Lou,
please hang around.
Lou,
Yes.
Lou. If you'll notice my background, that's the background for the International Convention, which is taking place August 23rd through 28th. And if you have not yet sent in your, yes, I'm going to be there, 16 hours of training, as well as being able to watch the World Championship of Public Speaking, I certainly recommend you do that. It's very easy. Just go to Toastmasters International webpage. It's right there. Just click on register. And for $25, you have a complete access to everything going on from the board of directors meeting to what's going on in the voting to 16 hours of education to the public speaking. And the best part is a good portion of that is VOD, video on demand. So if you can't make it during that time, you can always play it back later. Thank you very much. One last thing. Lou informed me that we're having a special presentation by Nick Lacani next week. And it's a 10-minute presentation. I have to commend everybody in Toastmasters in this club because they understand that if you really want to get to speak, you need to go to the website and pull up that opportunity to do that. And what I've seen is that we've all grabbed the speaking spots for next week, and we're trying to honor the request of Nick. We mentioned this in 2 previous meetings that he was going to be doing this on August 16th, but so many people grabbed the spots ahead of time. I just want to touch base in advance to let you know that we may have to make some adjustments to allow that presentation to take place. Back to you, Mr. Presiding Officer.
Yes, thank you very much. And I thank you for bringing that up. Yes, Nick is going to be doing a special presentation next week. So please be here next week. That'd be awesome. And thank you to all the members who were able to join us tonight for the business session as well. I know a lot of folks have unique situations going on over the summer that don't allow us to always be here every week. So I really, really appreciate that you were here for that special vote. I'm going to officially close the meeting. Yes, please stick around because we'd love to hear what you have gained from our meeting today. With that, I officially call this meeting adjourned.